I'll tell you what, let me do the head to this tune, and you listen and then come in on the second chorus.
Sure.
That way you'll get the changes.
All right.
It's called TNT. It's actually a Jimmy Smith tune.
All right.
Now 2/5. Yeah.
I'm not sure that there is as strong a blues community as there once was. Do you feel that way?
Boy, you know, it's just different. It's not like it was, because the whole lifestyle is not like it was. You know, at least in the States, people used to drink a lot more. And then, of course, a lot of the masters of the blues were still alive and touring. So
Right.
you could just, you know, I'd go to Boston and see Junior Wells and Buddy Guy, and then I'd get on a train after seeing a show Friday night and go to New York City, and then go see, you know, Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker. And plus they were everywhere. They came to our towns, and plus I was lucky because we had the Newport Folk Festival, which that's really where I got to see everybody.
When you're playing the blues, or when you think, like, I don't play blues very often. I don't do it professionally. Maybe someday I will. I enjoy it, but I practice it a lot, or I noodle on it a lot. It seems to be my default place. And for some reason, even though it's just 3 chords, you know, unless you fancy pants it, which happens too. I'm often like, well, when I go to the 4 chord, that's when I can there's some diminished stuff in there. And when I go to the 5 chord, I gotta find a way to, you know, and I think about it a lot. Having been primarily or largely a blues player for so long, is there any of that left? Like, is there still mystery that you dig for and find?
Well, my influences are more like from more jazz players and more melodic stuff, where I throw, especially on the 1 chord, and I play a lot of 2/5s instead of 5/4s.
Right.
I prefer a 2/5.
Sure.
It depends on the song. It's whatever fits the song. But a lot of stuff I do has a little more jazz context to it. And I come from a place where I'm influenced a lot by a lot of early jazz. And all the early jazz players were really great blues players. Louis Armstrong, a lot of the horn players like Johnny Hodges and Ben Webster. And I take a lot of my phrasing from horn players instead of guitar players.
Right.
So I've kind of developed a style of kind of slurring things to try to make it sound fluid the way a saxophone, say, would.
You've been hired to play with people who've sort of blurred the lines between blues and I don't know what else you'd call it. I think about somebody like Tom Waits or Bob Dylan. Like, did you work on Time Out of Mind? Was that the record you did with Dylan?
Yeah.
And did Dan Lanois produce that record?
Yes, he did.
He did. How much time did you spend in the studio with those guys?
9 days, 12 hours a day.
And were you playing pretty much the whole time?
No. Yes and no. I started off, Daniel Lanois didn't want me there, and Bob Dylan did.
That doesn't surprise me.
So Lanois didn't want a blues guitarist on this record.
Right.
And he kept, you know, threatening me. Like, if I hear one blues lick, you're out of here, you know. And
What were you supposed to play?
Dylan, the first thing we cut, I walked in, they were already rehearsing a song. I went in there, Dylan gave me a solo, and he was listening to the playback, and he was just going crazy about that, and Daniel didn't like that. So for the entire session, Daniel Lanois would come out and say, Duke, you can sit this one out, I'm gonna play. And they'd start rehearsing, and then Dylan would take him in the corner and they'd argue for 15 minutes, and then Lenoir would come in and he'd say, go back in there. This happened the whole record. It was... Sorry to insult a Canadian, but
No, hey,
he was
all.
not very nice.
No, it sounds like it sounds like you're just saying what happened. I don't know that
That's
you're insulting
exactly
him.
it.
Yeah. What was it like working with Tom Waits?
Great. Tom was great. He was just a beautiful character, you know, funny all the time, just funny. You know, he'd just say really funny things. Like when I was playing with him, we were doing a sound check, and he likes distortion more than I do. I like distortion, but I use it sparingly. So he wanted my guitar to be more distorted, and so I turned the distortion up, and as we were rehearsing the song, I guess he caught me kind of like looking like, you know, unhappy about my sound. And he came over to me and he goes, "What's the matter? Too much mustard?" That just cracked me up, you know. I mean, he came up with stuff like that on the spot all the time, you know. All right, man.